went to the ocean, I went to the sea. I sang to the birds, I sang to the sea. She said to me, life is a process, life is a cycle. Ebb and flow, we go in the circle, circle of life. The sky and the sea, they hold wisdom for you and for me. And they share their beauty, their joy, and their love for all to see, to feel their frequency, to raise the vibration of love, of love, of love. That is what we're here to do, to raise our vibration, vibration of love, love frequency. Hey everybody, it's I, Ruhamah, the Kombucha Mamma, sharing with you another expression from my heart. Hi Allie, welcome to all. We're so glad to have you here today. Welcome back to another Mama Monday. Go ahead and share this on your stream if you want to invite some other folks here. We got a really great guest for you today. We're going to be talking to Sophie Fletcher, and she has a PhD from Pacifica Graduate Institute in depth psychology with an emphasis on somatic studies, and her dissertation focused on the interrelational dynamics of physical contact by specifically inquiring into the lived experiences of hands-on bodywork practitioners with their clients. What happens when two people touch? Ooh, what an exciting topic. Plus, she also is a human design coach, and I found out about human design a few years ago. Are you guys familiar with human design at all? It is it's an interesting modality that's at an intersection of astrology and I Ching. So I Ching is an ancient Chinese system of trigrams. So there's 3 lines and 3 lines. They can be broken or solid. And based on how they are broken or solid, they have different meanings. And of course, a studier of Mandarin Chinese and Chinese culture, I've known about the I Ching for a really long time. So it was really fascinating to find it combined with astrology into human design. So it's not quite 9, but Sophie will be joining us in a little bit. But do you know your human design? If you do, drop it in the comments. Let's hear who we've got here today. I happen to be a projector. If you know me, this might not come as any surprise if you're familiar with human design. Projectors are guides. Projectors are people who have a really massive aura, and they pull into their aura people, situations, things. I'm also a 5-1, which is so one of the terms of art for a 5 is a heretic, just meaning that you might be someone who talks about or focuses on topics that are sort of outside of the mainstream. And part of what we do is to bring those fringe kind of things back into the mainstream. And then the 1 is the researcher in me. So I happen to be someone who loves to investigate, to go deep and find out more about all kinds of things. So be that kombucha. I developed the kombucha research database. You can find that at research.kombuchabrewers.org. If you want to see the compilation of research papers we have on kombucha, and of course our book, the Big Book of Kombucha, has an entire section on the research. And I spent many years loving kombucha, researching kombucha, spending time at the UCLA library in their Japanese archives, looking up, sort of validating these different histories and stories of kombucha. And of course, our book has a really detailed timeline where you can see the evidence of that research. So I'm just someone who, by her nature, really matches up with both my astrology and now my human design chart. So I'm really excited to have Sophie on here in just a little bit. But do you human design? If you do, drop a note in the comments. Let us know. Are you a projector? Are you a manifesting generator? Are you a generator? Are you a reflector? We want to hear what you are. And if you don't know it at all, a really great site to check it out is called mybodygraph.com. You can enter your birth data and get a free chart, and that will show you what you are. And I'm going to tell you, for me, it was so revelatory because it really shifted a lot of information for me. It made me understand that Well, I thought I was lazy because I didn't have the same energy or drive as my manifesting generator husband. That wasn't true. It's just my energy comes in waves like the ocean. No wonder I love the ocean so much. It also helped me realize that my aura needs some downtime to recharge, and that I get more energy from having everything out of my energy field, which makes a lot of sense because I help a lot of people, and so I bring in a lot of other people's energy. But oh my gosh, before I go too much, oh, hi Sophie. It just takes a minute for the. Hey.
Morning.
Good morning, and how are you?
I am fabulous. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Yeah, so I was just telling everybody about human design. I read a little bit of your bio. You have an absolutely fascinating dissertation. So why don't we first welcome you to the show. Welcome to Mama Mondays, Sophie Fletcher. And just tell us a little bit about your history and what got you into People in Touch.
My history. Well, I was brought up in sort of a spiritual background as part of a spiritual group, and then even did a first master's in spiritual psychology. And I realized that pretty much everything that I had been focusing on was all about transcending the body, releasing the body, being above the body. And my personal way of dealing with trauma is dissociation. So I'm great at that. But that plays into my trauma response. So it's not actually helping me to really integrate what's happened in my life. It's just giving me an extra out and an acceptable way to dissociate. And then I kind of fell into this group that had a body worker where the method was actually walking on the body. And so it really gets in there and it's deep and you have to sort of meet it. And all of a sudden, everything that I had been learning about kind of like felt like it just like landed in my body rather than sort of this out here spiritual mindset was like, oh, my body has to be involved in the healing process. Who would have thought? And so I kind of went down that journey of learning different body works and then did my PhD in depth psychology with somatics. And then during that time, I learned about parapersonal space. And that's this area around our bodies. It's not our aura, it's something else. And it's this area around our bodies where our brain still maps it as part of us. And then whenever we're touching something, especially something that we touch repeatedly, our brain starts to map that as actually part of us. So even think about it, I mean, the research that's being done on this is more with inanimate objects, like people who have artificial limbs and stuff like that, where it's like their brain actually starts to map that artificial hand as part of them, and they can touch, they can feel at the end of their fingertips. And even think about it in modern day, how much do we touch our phones? And then all of a sudden someone loses their phone and it's like, oh my God, I'm losing a part of me. Like it's literally like I've lost my hand. And it's because our brain has mapped it as us. So I was reading about this and it occurred to me that I couldn't find any studies on it where people had studied it interrelationally. And being a body worker myself, I had experienced phenomena with my clients where I would feel like I'm melding, or like, oh, I can feel parts of your body that I can't technically touch. Like I can feel your organs, you know, things like that. Or even just feeling like a little bit more enmeshment. And so I wanted to study it. So I sort of put the neuroscience piece of this parapersonal space and then even more sort of relational dynamics that have been studied now in terms of relational dynamics with this more esoteric, energetic interacting between bodies.
Well, let me bring it back to kombucha because that's what I do here. And some people might be thinking, what does touch have to do with kombucha? Well, our bacteria are acetobacter and they create biofilms. And what this means is they throw out nanofibers of cellulose and they need to connect. They need to bond to other like cells in order to create this amazing defense mechanism. And from this scaffolding they create, other organisms depend literally and physically from them. So the yeast will hang off the SCOBY, but it's also living within the structure of the scaffolding that's been built. And so one of the ways that I talk about humans as bacteriosapiens, because I feel like that best encapsulates our relationship with bacteria, and that this entire planet would not be functioning without those microbes. And for me, microbes are magic because they're invisible to the naked eye. And so when we're watching a really good magic trick, we can't see the mechanism by which whatever amazing thing is happening. And so with microbes doing magic, with us being bacteriosapiens, it's natural that we as human beings crave safe, healthy, non-sexual, non-threatening human touch. Like, it is so healing, it is so nourishing, it is so vital to our existence as human beings. We are social creatures. Yeah. We need healthy touch that's safe, that allows us to feel present in our bodies, that allows us to receive energy from others, but in a way that then doesn't trigger some sort of adverse response in our body. So, I mean, it sounds like you agree with that concept.
I definitely agree with that. And I mean, in all the research that I was doing also, because touch is also the least researched sense of the body, which is interesting because it's the one that, I mean, some people say that it's the sense because everything else is other things touching our bodies, like light touching my eyes, vibrations touching my ears, things that, like, everything is touching the other senses to make it the sense that it is. And touch is the only sense that we can't turn off. Like, I can close my eyes and no longer say, I can put on those, you know, noise canceling headphones. I can do certain things. Touch, you're always touching. There's no way to turn off your skin. But it's also that touch is kind of thrown out as like, oh yeah, this nice thing. It's actually vital. Like, it's actually like breathing, water, kombucha. But touch, it's actually necessary and vital for our life. Like, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Absolutely. I mean, I think infants have a failure to thrive when they aren't touched.
Yeah, there's lots of research on that. If a baby is, you know, put in a sterile environment and given enough food and given enough milk, all of the things, like all of their other needs are fully met, and they don't get touched, they can literally die, or just not develop. So,
which is wild, right? Because, like you're saying, we don't realize how important touch is. I mean, it's gravity. It's what connects us to the earth. I did bungee jumping once, many moons ago, and we did one called an elevator shaft jump, where you go feet first, and because your feet are so used to having the ground meeting it, that when that isn't there, your brain like flips out. It cannot comprehend what is happening to it because it is so vital that we have that haptic response. And so, well, this was so fascinating. And how did these studies lead into human design? So I want to hear sort of the history of that, and then let's also share what human design is.
Yeah, so I was actually into human design before I did my PhD. It was just even the bodywork group that I had sort of gotten involved in. It was actually a couple, and the wife was into human design, and so I did a lot of coaching with her, and she would incorporate a lot of human design, and it just made a lot of sense to me. Like, I really enjoyed it. And one of the things, and I've mentioned this to you, one of my favorite parts about it is that it's the science of differentiation. And at the same time, there's so many relational dynamics within the system that you can look at and just get so much information from. And I will say that, like, the through thread of my life is I'm so curious about humans interacting. Like, what is happening when we're in relation? What is going on between what makes two people click a little bit more than other two people? And what makes me feel this way around this person versus that way around this other person? Like, all of these things that we all know exist. And yet I'm so curious, like, why and how? And so I'd gotten into human design, and like you, I'm a projector. And I feel like it's like revelatory for projector types and manifestor types, like these sort of non-sacral types in human design. because we live in a generator heavy world. And so most of us have been conditioned that we should have this infinite energy.